And this is where people really started associating specific foods with certain meals. And with this change in dinner came the invention of, hey, I'm Matt from Matt Lane Fitness. If you're new here, I appreciate you sliding by. It's so cool to see your face. Welcome to the Ask ML Fit Show, where you ask your fitness questions and I answer them. I want to dive into today's questions. Just one though, from somebody named Deontay. This question is something that I have thought about for literally years, but never done any homework to find it out. I did have to do some homework. I did not know this beforehand. Deontay said, is eating what most people consider a meal geared for lunch like spaghetti or pizza for breakfast bad to eat for breakfast? I'm gonna give you the quick and dirty of it, because what bugs me the most is when people are like, well, in order to answer the question, we have to dig into what is breakfast. Technically, breakfast... Just answer the question. There is nothing inherently bad about eating certain foods at certain times. Ultimately, we have constructed these social norms based on technology, our schedules, and marketing. If you are working on fat loss, then it is important that you are just in a calorie deficit. So you can eat pizza in the morning and waffles at night, it does not matter. The timing of the meals, the timing of the food that you're eating also does not matter. You know, that myth of like 7 or 8 p.m. if you eat past it, you're gonna gain weight. Not the case. If you're in a calorie deficit, it does not matter. Inversely, if you're in a calorie surplus, then you are going to gain fat. So no, there is nothing inherently bad about eating certain foods at certain times. I found a book and it was very, very intriguing. The book, 3 Squares, The Invention of the American Meal by food historian. That's right, there are food historians. How rad, and then also, what the hell am I doing with my life? Abigail Carroll is the person that wrote this, and it's about the evolution of meal choices and the patterns in the US from colonial times all the way up until now. This book went on to talk about how in the early colonial era, which is 1607 to 1775, I wonder how many people didn't know that either, so drop it down below. I am not the only one that didn't know. Dinner was basically the main meal of the day, and it was eaten by farmers and laborers earlier in the day when the elite typically ate later in the day. Breakfast and supper really wasn't considered important meals, and they were often just leftovers of cornmeal and mush, which I gotta tell you, sounds terrible. Dinner wasn't considered a social event either. It was mainly just about eating and refueling, moving on. And there seemed to be very blurry lines about what constituted an actual meal, what foods were eaten at those certain meal times. It was very vague, it seemed. Then the Industrial Revolution came along, and that was 1750 to 1840. Also had to Google that. Everything changed then because people's work schedules changed drastically. People were moving from an agrarian lifestyle to an urban factory-driven lifestyle, and they weren't able to go home midday and eat. This in turn made the meal at home, which was ultimately dinner, the family eating together, more of a special thing. And this is where manners really came into play, formality became important. It was a bonding experience, it makes sense, right? And this is where people really started associating specific foods with certain meals. And with this change in dinner came the invention of lunch. And specifically, it was designed to fill that midday hunger. And man, I gotta tell you, it seems that lunch and the sandwich really exploded in popularity. It was mainly because there was no utensils needed. It was easy cleanup. It was great for adults, but it was also really good for children. It just wasn't a messy meal, and it made it much better for people that were on the go. And because of the Industrial Revolution, there came this more sedentary lifestyle for a lot of individuals, which led to more cases of indigestion. Then this led to health reformers popping up everywhere talking about vegetarianism and whole wheat foods being the answer to your breakfast. And just as those marketers always do, there were people in the shadows waiting and saw the opportunity. Entrepreneurs in the 1800s and 1900s really started making wild health claims. People like Sylvester Graham, like the graham cracker, he was a proponent of a health ideology and advocated for vegetarianism and whole wheat foods, but he really claimed for this to be like the holy grail for health problems. Another person like Charles C. Post, yeah, the cereal, further popularized the ideas of health foods and deemed them as a requirement for it to be a healthy breakfast. This was marketing. Even back then, they created all sorts of crazy testimonials and served advertisements for things like cereal products and then also grape nuts. For example, grape nuts actually claimed that grape nuts could cure an appendicitis, impotence, heart disease, malaria, rickets, and those are only a few to name. This marketing has been going on for as long as we have been around. So in summary, the technology, the lifestyle, and the marketing all really shaped the meal patterns and choices that we have and see today. When you hear about social constructs now of fasting, eating every 2 hours, only eating certain foods, all of it has been around for so long. And what matters at the end of the day is, what can you stick to? What do you enjoy? That's what matters. Putting these really, really hard lines in the sand, it fails. It fails more often than not for a lot of people. What matters is find what you enjoy, what you can stick to, and that is how you will be successful with it. If you're looking for fitness plans based in behavior change and science, it's exactly what I do. Check it out at mattlanefitness.com or down below. And to Deontay, I appreciate you asking the question. I've been wanting to dive into that for a long time. To the Mental Fit Mafia, to the patrons, I see you scrolling down here. Thank you. You've always been a supporter of this channel. It means so much. You don't have to be perfect at this meal timing choice thing. Just be better than yesterday, every day.